Welcome back to HPL. We're about to get our first match underway of Greensheep and ErA. Guys, get out there on Twitter, use that hashtag, let us know what you think they're going to play, who's going to win, and you know what? If you want to know, maybe help us out with our little friendly wager. You can maybe tell us what we should be betting on or what we should be betting. So guys, give us a couple ideas out there. If you got a good one, maybe we'll use it.
Yeah, this is sort of a classic matchup. You know, last night we expected Muzzy to be very aggressive in his matches, and he swapped it a little bit. This one I really don't expect to be swapped whatsoever. I think this is going to be the classic battle of control versus aggro that you see so very often in card games in general. And it's really anyone's game at this point.
So you mean Greensheep's going to play control every game?
That's not what I mean at all. Game 1 Greensheep versus ErA is getting underway right now.
Yep, and right away we see Greensheep bringing out a pretty aggressive deck. That is a whirling Zap-O-Matic.
Yeah, this is Greensheep in a nutshell. He loves to play these aggressive strategies and have threats that if their opponents don't deal with them, they deal massive amounts of damage. And look at ErA's hand. That's a mirror image to help fend off some of that aggression, and a Flame Strike in his deck. If he gets to turn 7 and has that, look out! He could sweep Greensheep's entire board.
Yeah, that would be great for ErA there. Now, ErA's going to be playing what looks like a Tempo Mage deck. We saw him play this, I believe, in his first match.
Yeah, I mean, he did play something like this. It was in Game 5 after he'd played 4 control decks in a row. He sort of swapped over to this tempo deck and tried to get the job done there. So I think it was a good swap from him, but it just happened to not work out according to his plan. But, you know, taking a look at this opening hand here, this is a fantastic one. He's got 2 Sorcerer Apprentice. He's picked him a Mad Scientist and a Clockwork Gnome. He's got plenty of gas to make sure he can fight through this early game. And then kind of more importantly, he's got a strategy that, once again, is mixing it up as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, he's going to be able to protect this Apprentice quite a bit. How do you feel about the turn 1 Mech Warper from Greensheep?
I like turn 1 Mech Warper. It really gives you a lot of different plays to go off of here. You know, if Mech Warper gets Frost Bolted in a situation like this, maybe even Flame Cannon, he can just go ahead and follow it up with the Whirling Zap-O-Matic and then keep pressure back on ErA. So I like his game plan moving into it, but ErA's opening hand is so strong. I mean, he's been able to protect his minions, get some pressure out right now, and he's going to follow this up with a Mad Scientist. If Greensheep can't get a lot of pressure building behind this game could very quickly slip out of control.
Yeah, I mean, this hand looks just absolutely great for ErA in this matchup, but he's down to just a Mad Scientist in his hand. Greensheep has a lot of stuff behind this. He's got a Piloted Shredder and a Fire Elemental, but ooh, a Fireball's picked up ErA. That was a pretty good draw as well.
Yeah, that's really where the difference is the amount of cards that these players have available to them. Typically, the aggro player is the one who's going to run out of options more quickly, but ErA has invested a lot in keeping his board under control in a situation like this. Whirling Blade's actually a pretty darn good pickup. This will allow him to take out Spider Tank if he wants to, and use Hero Power on Clockwork Gnome, and get Mad Scientist on the board. So not a terrible spare part for him to get at this point, but it looks like he's going to favor using Fireball and not developing the Mad Scientist this turn, but this will allow him to push for pressure now.
Yeah, ErA's actually applying pressure instead of just banking on board control, probably knowing that he needs to get this game over with since he's practically out of cards, only having a Mad Scientist left in his hand. I don't think he wants to play a super long game with Greensheep here.
Yeah, this is something you'll see a lot from tempo-oriented decks, is that they invest everything into getting this early board position, and then if their opponent doesn't have the right answers to stuff, they're able to kind of snowball the game out of control. Look at these Sorcerer's Apprentices. They just dealt 7 damage last turn. They're going to deal 7 more damage this turn, and one of them's already dealt 3 damage. So Greensheep has taken a massive amount of damage from just these 2 cards, and this is exactly what Tempo wants to do. Keep this pressure up, follow that up with more burn spells, and make sure that their opponents cannot recover the board position despite the amount of options they have.
Yeah, and you're seeing why it's called Tempo Mage here. Just great cheap plays all the way through, plus both of the Apprentice being in play. I mean, the Arcane Intellect was only 1 mana this turn. You got to cast an Arcane Intellect, a Frostbolt, and a Mechanical Yeti this turn, all for 5 mana.
Yeah, look, even going to protect his 4/2 Sorcerer's Apprentice in this spot. It's difficult to say one way or the other which one is better. Something that this does play around is something like Flame Tongue Totem and then trading away the Mechanical Yeti, so protecting his larger threats at the same time. Greensheep having to utilize his life total, meanwhile, while he's at 16. He just took a quarter of his life to kill a minion that was on the board. That is not the position you want to be in playing an aggressive deck.
No, and ErA's going to push for a ton of damage here against her. He's going to deal 5 more, putting Greensheep down to 7. Greensheep already looking to be down 1-0 in this matchup.
Yeah, Fel Reaver is no good here either. I mean, he needed a taunt minion very badly in this position. I mean, as it stands, yeah, I mean, there's just no way Greensheep can recover this one. A very quick game 1 to ErA, who identified the strategy he needed to kind of disrupt this early game aggression from Greensheep, and picking off this game. Talk about good opening hands. ErA definitely had one of them, and the big part about that is how much he was able to utilize his mana kind of coming into this game. He used what looked like every point of mana every single turn except for turn 1. And at every step of the way, he was making progress in the games. So kind of disregarding that card advantage, throwing it aside to make sure he can get that early board advantage and punish Greensheep for not having the right tools in his deck to deal with that early onslaught, who instead himself is focused on trying to get that ball rolling.
Yeah, he had a great turn 5. He was kind of out of gas, drew an Arcane Intellect, only had to pay 1 mana for it. No full retail here, only 1 mana. Drew into 2 spells that he could cast that turn. Got to cast a Mechanical Yeti and do other things in that turn too. So like everything was working very well for ErA that game, and you saw him come away with the victory.
Yeah, this is another change in strategy that ErA has been doing. Again, I think he's been exercising his game plans in terms of queuing up the right strategies very, very well so far here in HPL. But again, he had 2 of what I would consider his hardest opponents in HPL at all, in Zlay and Purple being his first 2 opponents. You know, both of them members of Archon, who's a very dominant team. But he's been looking so good in every single one of his matches. It's only a matter of time till he starts putting these W's on the board.
Yeah, you're going to expect to see a lot of W's out of him. I like ErA a lot the more I watch. I know I picked Greensheep here tonight. I wanted to stay with the hot player and everything, but ErA, again, we've been talking about it every time he's been on the show. He's impressing the hell out of us.
Yeah, showing that he has more up his sleeve than just control styles that can keep aggression at bay and make sure he can pick up those wins himself. Game 2 is going to be underway when we get back, but right now they're making changes to their decks and making sure that their strategies look picture perfect for Game 2. In the HPL format, players can play anything they want at any time. There are no restrictions placed on them whatsoever. So when we come back, it's going to be Game 2, ErA versus Greensheep. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.